перше послання.
Давайте молиться.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on over to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio. Russia this weekend decided to get a little bit crazy and, no kidding, killed 34 people inside of the Sumy Oblast and injured 117, I believe, was the actual final count that was given. Now, all of that took place on Palm Sunday as people were literally in church, on their way to church, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to talk about why they probably ended up doing that here on today's episode. But what's even worse is not just the attacks yesterday on Palm Sunday, but as we speak, we're getting new reports coming in right now of Shahed drones that are slamming in to Sumy again. Russia decided that the people inside of the Sumy Oblast apparently don't deserve a frickin' break and that they just need to go and frickin' kill more civilians, I guess. So that's happening. And while people are really worried about the war over inside Israel and complaining about all the civilians that are getting killed inside Gaza, I have yet to hear a single liberal cry out for the amount of civilians that have been getting killed inside Ukraine. So this morning, we're going to spend a little bit of time focusing on that because it is a very big deal. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see your faces over here inside of the chat. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay, streaming by and the volume and everything is taken care of. All right, so that video, in case you guys missed it, I'm going to play it one more time. I'm going to play it one more time because this is inside of the church, and I think it's very important that people see what's going on. This guy is literally preaching, and I've got a video of this sucker coming in and slamming down in the middle of the street from the moment it impacted. Wait for it. Here you go.
Давайте разом відкриємо перше послання.
Давайте молиться.
So that is what ended up taking place during their Sunday church service. Now, Trump got asked about it. Trump got asked, what does he think about this? What does he think about the, 30-something odd people that ended up getting killed, 117 freaking people getting wounded. 2 children, by the way, ended up getting killed in that attack. And you're going to see that ballistic missile running in here in just a sec. But I want you to listen to what Trump had to say about it because it's going to be a little bit telling of the future.
Medicare and Medicaid also, yes.
Do you have a reaction to Russia's Palm Sunday attack on Ukraine?
I think it was terrible, and I was told...
Shalom, ballistic squeeze.
But I think it's a horrible thing. I think the whole war is a horrible thing. I think the war is, for that war to have started, is an abuse of power. This country would have never allowed that war to have started if I were president. That war is a shame. Millions of people are dead that should be alive. Cities are being destroyed all over Ukraine. The whole culture is gone. It's certainly very severely hurt. You know, the chapels, the churches, the spirals, all of the things that they had in Ukraine were among the most beautiful anywhere in the world. Most of them are knocked down and blown up into a million pieces. But most importantly, you have millions of people dead that shouldn't be dead.
Now, I want you to notice that he said, most importantly, you also have millions of people dead that shouldn't be dead. A lot of people are unaware of how many people have been killed over inside of Ukraine, not just Russians, not just Ukrainian military, but Ukrainian civilians that have been slaughtered throughout this entire freaking war. And it has been raging for years now, and it hasn't ended. Now, Trump's going to go on and he's going to say, it's Biden's war. Biden started the war, and he's going to go Biden. He's going to keep saying it's Biden's fault. And part of me kind of, wants to agree with him with I don't think Biden started the war, but I think Putin took advantage of Biden being in office. It's my personal belief on that one. Jenna says, Givenzigo, Jenna should get more recognition than a teen who killed another, then tried to say it was self-defense. I'm dying. I have children. One is autistic. Yeah, this entire deal, personally, what's taking place over inside of Ukraine should get way more. I can't even get my hat on straight. Like the camera angles are screwing it up for me in my head. Like what is going on here? Look at this. Like, how can I not get my dang hat on straight? I feel like I can do this any other day of the week, apparently, until I come on camera, and then I can never get my hat on straight. I hate my life right now. How is this even a possibility? But Yeah, I mean, it absolutely should, right? Absolutely. This massacre that took place, and you guys are about to see why here in just a sec, should absolutely get more attention, in my opinion. Jenna, hopefully I understood you correctly. It absolutely should get way more attention than that little BS freaking like teen drama that ended up taking place. This next video that you're going to end up seeing, trigger warning for some of you possibly, is going to be a video driving down the street. And in this video, you're going to see literally the ballistic missile come in. Now, they said it was potentially ballistic missiles that ended up having cluster munitions attached. I didn't see that evidence on there, but maybe I'm wrong. But let's take a look. So, yeah, I mean, you can clearly see it just rains down right in the middle of the street. Now, Russia using their ballistic missiles right in the middle of the city, Palm Sunday. I'm trying to figure out what legitimate military target could have been there, because the word is that it was actually one of the gathering places in the middle of the street where thousands of civilians from the city were going to gather for Sunday church services. So we can't really sit here and say that there was legitimate military targets that Russia was going after. I'd be very interested to see what they say, because you're about to see the aftermath of some of the strike. Now, this is a little bit different. This is not, like Hamas firing rockets. This is not anything. We're talking about a legitimate military, an advanced military that's firing ballistic missiles into the middle of the city. And I'm going to throw this shit up on a map in a second. I think you guys are going to go, that's why this took place. You guys let me know if you see legitimate military targets anywhere. Let me know. I haven't seen one in that video. I don't know. Did you? I sure didn't. I didn't see a legitimate military target. How about this one? How about this city bus? Does this look like a legitimate military target for anybody? I'm going to go with no. I'm going to go with no. This is not a legitimate military target. Anybody agree? Anybody disagree? Does anybody see one yet? Because now we're going to go to a big overview of this entire area. And again, we're talking about ballistic missiles fired directly into the middle of a populated urban area. Ballistic missiles, not a targeted airstrike, not anything else, ballistic missiles going down. Finally, something that could be considered a legitimate military target. A soldier in civilian attire. And I don't even know if it's a soldier, but somebody with body armor and a helmet. Why? Because they're getting freaking shelled by Russia all the damn time. And so these people just have the stuff at the ready to go if they're lucky enough to have it. Anybody else? Legitimate military target anywhere around there? This is all civilian footage immediately following the strike. This is all civilian footage immediately following the strike. I don't see civilians trying to hide any legitimate military targets around. Now, what's even better, here, let's open this up. There's the same bus. Legitimate military targets, anybody? What about there? Legitimate military targets? How about that freaking bus again? Let's take a look at that bus again. Throughout this entire area, you don't see a single one. Not a one. Not a single one. And if I missed it, if I'm wrong, somebody please tell me. Somebody tell me where it's at. Now, the only thing that I might be able to say maybe, because I'd be lying if I didn't tell you. The pickup truck. Ukrainian armed forces have used pickup trucks because they're low on supplies. Maybe. But in the back of this truck, you don't see a gun mount. You don't see any like distinguishing features. You don't see anything like that on there. And if that's all they were going after, a ballistic missile in order to take it out is a bit of an overkill, and it would still constitute a war crime because of the amount of freaking civilian casualties and the harm that that would actually do to soldiers. It's disproportional. So you can't say even then that that would be considered a legitimate military target. You simply can't. Not with the munitions that they used in order to fire. And look at the destruction across this area. Look at it. And we're going to open up the map again in just a second to show you why Russia is probably likely targeting this area in Matt's opinion. Again, big photo. I'll blow it up on your screen. You can see a portion of the bus over here, so you know it's the same area. You know it's in that traffic circle because I showed you the video where the ballistic missile ended up coming down and slamming into the middle of it. I see people saying it was a cluster munition. I heard it wasn't a cluster munition. Either way, I don't care. You don't get to do this crap. This is not a legitimate military target. Nowhere around here, nowhere do I see that. I see some people with camouflage, and you're going to understand why. That military people are in the area because of how close to the front line it is. For those of you unfamiliar with the layout and geography. And that's okay. But nowhere in this area whatsoever is there a legitimate military target. There's civilian vehicles all over the damn place. Civilian bus right there. I don't even see like sandbags or anything like that on a window. I don't see anything that suggests whatsoever that this is a legitimate military target. And so when Trump says that he's tired of people dying, over 1 million people have died, this is what he's talking about because this shit takes place on a daily basis in Ukraine. I haven't been talking about it very much, but literally on a daily basis, stuff like this has been taking place. There is a drone wave that went across all of Ukraine just a couple weeks ago, like 10 days ago. Ended up hitting like 10 different freaking cities, and a lot of them weren't even anywhere near the freaking front line.
Да, люди на місці згоріли, їбать.
That building clearly got schwacked. But again, zero signs of any military significance here whatsoever. What if, in case you missed it, and you guys are just now joining us on Sunday, on Palm Sunday, Russia fired ballistic missiles at the city of Sumy over inside of Ukraine, and it targeted a freaking like little square or like public space where everybody had been gathering for Palm Sunday, and people were going through and they were conducting church service when it ended up striking. So if you're just here, this is what was taking place when those ballistic missiles struck.
Давайте разом відкриємо перше послання.
I didn't see Trump say this was an accident. Whoever said that. You show me where Trump said it's an accident. Do we need to listen to his full reaction to this? Let's listen, because you wanted to allege he said it was an accident.
Medicare and Medicaid also, yes.
Do you have a reaction to Russia's Palm Sunday attack on Ukraine?
I think it was terrible, and I was told they made a mistake, but I think it's a horrible thing. I think the whole war is a horrible thing. I think the war...
He said they made a mistake, meaning they screwed up. He thinks Russia made a mistake. Russia screwed up. I.e., they shouldn't have done what they did. You want to hear it again before you say it was an accident?
Palm Sunday attack on Ukraine.
I think it was terrible, and I was told they made a mistake, but I think it's a horrible...
He said, I was told they made a mistake.
A reaction to Russia's Palm Sunday attack on Ukraine.
I think it was terrible, and I was told they made a mistake, but I think it's a horrible thing. I think the whole war is a horrible thing. I think the war is...
I think it was terrible. I was told they made a mistake. Who do you think told him that they made a mistake? Do you think maybe that comment came from Russia? They hit their intended target. He said it's horrible. He didn't say it was an accident. He said, I got told it was a mistake. So you don't get to sit here and try to gaslight the freaking world. And that's half the damn problem. You know what you guys should be doing right now? Is you should actually be uniting behind the president. And I'm not joking. I'm not shitting on you when I say that. But seriously, guys, your TDS is getting out of control. You can't just sit there and say, Trump called it an accident. No, he didn't. He said it's horrible. It's terrible. I was told that they made a mistake. Who do you think told him that? And why do you think we're about to be freaking bombing the shit out of Iran? As you guys want to sit back and go over this, because you know what's taking place over inside of Ukraine today? Hold on. Let me get all of them. Because that same region, check this out, that same region was getting smashed by Shahed drones. Again, the same city getting hit by Shahed drones. Today, there's a Shahed flying right over top of Sumy. Flying right over the top of Sumy. And here's the actual impact afterwards. Slamming in there. Again, you guys are alleging things in the comment section. It makes me laugh every time. Again, your TDS is out of control. Here's why Russia ends up going after it. Here's your map. Let's get it up here. Here you have Sumy. Now, all of this right up over here, this would have been the Kursk Oblast, where Ukraine ended up going and invading and then retrograding back out of. And Sumy is right over there, but it's so far off the front line, it's not even funny. Ukraine has such a large buffer zone, and Russia is attempting to make their advances over on the front unsuccessfully. Unsuccessfully. They haven't been able to do it. I actually grabbed and pulled a summary, give me a second here, of everything that they were able to do over the weekend. And it's not that much at all. It's really not. Let me open this up for you. Here's what they got so far. To give you an idea, I took the last assessment from ISW that took all of their crap, everything that Russia has been able to do and what they haven't been able to do. Here's their current limitations. They're going by the 1,000 cuts method, going over and over, trying to make these like tiny little strikes and advances. They have repeated assaults across the front line with untrained recruits. They are going through material shortages and difficulties on it. And right now, the U.S. is going after a supply line over in the Middle East, which we're about to go over and talk about. And those material shortages are what's causing them to get held up. The frontline commanders often launch attacks not for strategic gain, but to report activity to their superiors. And it's the meat waves that they're continuing to throw out there. As a matter of fact, it's noted numerous times. They have untrained recruits, and it creates a vicious cycle of attrition. So they have zero ability to make gains. They have made tiny, tiny, tiny tactical gains on the battlefield that don't amount to anything. They made a small gain over near Chasiv Yar. Makivka, they made a tiny one. And same thing over in Kharkiv. They are so minor, it's not even funny. We're talking about 100, 200 yards significance. That's it. As far as defense goes, Ukrainian forces have been able to repel all of their attacks over in Kupiansk, Tordesk, and Lyman. Their drone attacks that Ukraine has stepped up all across the freaking east have been able to actually hold them back. The FPVs that Ukraine has stepped up and started producing have caused a significant impact, stalling Russian movements or any attempt for them to come back. Additionally, when we look at the front, Ukraine hasn't launched major counterattacks, but what they're doing is counterattacks in a defensive manner. So they're going across the front, going over, killing a bunch of friggin' Russians and pulling back, which allows them more breathing room and more breathing space. And that's essentially what's been happening all across the front. And in retaliation for Ukraine doing all of those things, they're getting slammed with ballistic missiles and they're getting slammed with these different Shahed drones. And so now when we open up and we start talking about what's taking place over across the Middle East, when we start taking place over across the Middle East and what Trump is going after, it's going to make a significant impact. This is why Putin came out when we first said that we were going to start going after Yemen and bombing the shit out of the Houthis, and Putin asked Trump not to do it. Why do you think Putin didn't want Trump to go after the Houthis? For the love of God, people, can we please use our brains? If you guys ever speak publicly and you come in and you go and you start assessing every tiny little word, that man rambled for 5 minutes. No, it was actually like 3 minutes. That man rambled for 3 minutes, bouncing back between Joe Biden and everybody else. It clearly isn't a mistake. Clearly wasn't an accident. He said, I got told it was. And he called it a horrible, horrible deal. And you guys want to ignore those statements, and you want to throw other statements under the bus. It is probably one of the saddest things. Talk was talking at 2 a.m. Yeah. Everybody wants to sit there and nitpick tiny little words because they think it's going to fit their agenda. They think it's going to fit their agenda. Actions, not words, is what you should be concerned with. Actions, not words, is what you should be concerned with. And right now, everybody that is in here spitting that BS, that's taking that narrative and running with it, is spitting out freaking Russian propaganda. It is one of the saddest things that I've ever seen. I think if you're over here doing that shit, you're actually doing your best to dismantle the United States of America. And you bought into it. Bought into it hook, line, and sinker. It's easier to fool people than convince them that they have been fooled. Mark Twain said that. Really intelligent human being. Once you buy into a narrative for so long, you want to believe it. You just think that that is what it's going to be. And what you don't realize, because it's not just taking place here, it's taking place across the entirety of like social media. It's taking place on everywhere. And the goal of dividing America and getting you guys to do the stupid little fighting back and forth and creating partisan issues when there's clearly no partisan issue here. Russia is an enemy of the United States of America and has been for a really long time. Has been for a very, very long time. Vera says, Matt, I am pro-USA and Ukraine. The F are you talking about? LOL. What I'm talking about is all of these random narratives that are going in. He flat out said that if Russia doesn't agree and Zelensky doesn't agree, if Putin doesn't come to the negotiating table, he's going to end up funding the shit out of Ukraine and give them everything that they need. And yet you guys choose to ignore that. You choose to ignore it. You would rather focus on everything else. And that same diplomatic process that he went to that you guys want to get upset about is the same diplomatic process that's currently being used for Iran and that same diplomatic process that was trying to get used for Hamas over inside of Gaza. Negotiations, policy. He's a politician. At the end of the day, that's what he is. This crap, this map, right here, isn't really going to change. Hillmarsh says, would love your thoughts on the talks with Iran. We're going to go over that here in just a sec there, Hillmarsh. BBG coming in, giving out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Appreciate you, brother. This Frontline, he knows for a fact, the same way he knows Hamas isn't going to be able to exist. He knows for a fact Hamas isn't going to be negotiating with the United States, and they're not going to keep their word and everything else. But he still went over and he tried to negotiate with them anyways. He sent Steve Witkoff to go do it, who currently went into negotiations over this weekend with Iran. And Iran's statements on that are hilarious. And when we look at what took place over inside of Ukraine in the negotiations and talks for peace, he knows the same shit. I think he's getting schooled up on Putin quite a bit. I think he's getting schooled up on Putin and understanding Putin's resolve for this conflict and Putin's resolve for this area. And he is slowly understanding that, no, you're not ending this war in 30 frickin' days or less, or 100 days, or whatever the hell it was that he said. It just takes time. And when we go over and we start switching and we start talking about what's taking place in the Middle East, which we will here in a minute, you're going to then understand. You guys wanted to bring up Iran, so how'd the talks go on Saturday? Well, they pushed them off again. They talked for a little bit, and they said that they had a decent discussion, basically. Red Chariot says, Matt, I appreciate your passion for getting out the truth. Thank you, Red Chariot. They ended up stalling out. Iran says that their disarmament is not going to be an option. United States still attests that we will not allow for Iran to have a nuclear weapons program. So what do you think that means? Virus, Goroyam Slava. So tired of these people, man. What do you think it means? Do you think it means we're not going to do shit? Now, remember how I told you that today over in Sumy, that they just got slammed by more shaheeds, likely killing more civilians. When we go in and we bomb the crap out of Iran, and you better believe we're going to, you better believe that those Shaheed drone factories and all of that BS, those parts, that equipment, everything is going to get taken out for it. Goodman, CHZ, why do you think he's so dependent on Witkoff? No hate here, but isn't there anyone else he trusts? Dude, I've been saying the same thing. Not a fan of the guy, but he is relying on him pretty significantly to go over there and get these things done. So I'm not a big fan of Steve Witkoff myself, but he's doing his best to try to make it happen. Open up my good old friend Google Maps again. Skeptic, 10. The target of Sumy was a large gathering of soldiers who were getting awards. Even leaders in Kiev slammed Sumy leaders or allowed this to happen. An award ceremony. I'm sorry, where were they? Maybe I missed it, Skeptic. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed that. Theodore Schenk. Is there any chance Iran tries to make a nuke or turns out to be a dirty bomb? Yeah. The U.S. government flat out said that Iran is within, I mean, we're now at the threshold. They said, like right now, Iran, according to our government and according to people who testified before the Senate, yes, Iran today can have a nuclear weapon. Due to the timeline, today, Iran can have a nuclear weapon. And Skeptic, the other thing I'll throw out there for you, brother, is even if that was the case, it still doesn't meet the proportionality rule. Even if that was the case, it still doesn't meet proportionality. It doesn't. And thank you, Texas. It was a double tap Iskander ballistic missile. There you go. Even if that was the case, Skeptic, it still doesn't meet your rules for proportionality. And again, I didn't see a single wounded service member laying on the street over there. Not one. It's Sumy. We showed how close to the front line it was. There it is, right there. It's Sumy. It's in their own sovereign territory. They're allowed to have soldiers passing through. What Russia is not allowed to do is fire random freaking ballistic missiles into the middle of a damn city thinking they're going to like hit these guys. That's not how it works. And it wasn't that their aim was bad. It was that they just straight screwed up. It was that they got caught. That people actually paid attention because they did this shit on Palm Sunday. That's the problem with Russia. When we go over and we start taking a look, like I said, of what's happening in the Middle East and how it affects Russia, it's huge. And I talked about it last week. Some of you guys probably missed it. I think this is the one thing I talked about Friday morning. 164 billion euros estimated got lost to the EU last year. Low end, best estimates that I could do. I have the entire write-up over on my X profile. It's right down here. You guys can go find it. 164 billion estimated euros, all right, in frickin' trade that got lost because of what took place down here in the Red Sea. And last week, you should have seen it. Zelensky announced between 30 to 50 billion. It's billion with a B, as in boy, weapons purchase that he wants to make from the United States of America. It is set to be the largest one in history. No other nation on this planet has purchased that much from the United States of America, if it goes through. 30 to 50 billion. As a buttload. It pretty much doubles everything in military aid and equipment that has already been given to them. 30 to 50 billion when it goes through. And the word on the street is they're going to get the funding from the EU in order to purchase it. Zelensky said he's going to pay for it cash. Now, with the reopening of the Red Sea, the United States doing that, the French tucked tail and ran last week. The reopening of the Red Sea, that's going to create, again, at least $164 billion increase for the EU. So, yeah, I would assume that the United States would get paid back for the amount of shit that we're spending to drop on these people. And it makes sense that the EU fronts money to Ukraine so that they purchase stuff from the United States and that money goes back into the U.S. economy. That makes perfect sense. Not to even mention inflation. But if you want to get even more into the weeds about this, skeptic, and I talked about it last week, before the Houthis ended up shutting down the Red Sea and everybody decided that they were going to start going around all the way around freaking Africa. Before that happened, 50% of the oil passing through the Suez Canal belonged to Russia. 50% of the petroleum products going through the Suez Canal were Russian. Fox McCloud says, where there is a lie, there is no love. There cannot be love. Pope Francis. There you go. 50%. It's a hard number. 50% prior was Russian oil going through there. And we slapped the crap out of Russia with all those sanctions. They weren't able to take that oil and sell it anywhere. So you know where they were trying to offload it? Up over into the Asian market. That's where they were offloading all their oil. The Asian market. For cheap. Because everybody else that wanted to get oil over there had a much longer journey at a much higher cost. Now that the Suez Canal is about to be reopened, all of that oil is about to be able to start flowing through there, and it's going to be able to get provided to that market at a much cheaper cost. It essentially is going to price Russia out. That money is going to hit their freaking pocket, and it's going to hit it hard. That's what they've been relying on a lot for their freaking war effort. So when we reopen the Red Sea, when we reopen the Suez Canal, that directly impacts the amount of money that Russia has. Directly impacts the amount of money that Russia has, which is going to directly impact their war effort. That is a buttload of freaking money. And with that, Ukraine ends up getting the freaking money and funding that they actually need. And we don't have to sit there and wait for the U.S. government to debate over how much we're going to give and why we're going to give it. It's actually genius. When we first went over this, I was opining, and I said that the Trump administration is going to have to figure this crap out, that this peace talk, this negotiation, it's not going to work, that he's going to get schooled up real freaking hard. And you're likely going to have to see J.D. Vance going before Congress and trying to tell them why they need to get that much money to go back into Ukraine. He's going to have to go. He's a vice president. He presides over the Senate. So if things are going to start happening, it's got to go through him if they're the one that's going to be pushing it, even though they ran on ending that war. So it would be completely freaking contradictory to what they ran on. But this, he doesn't have to do it. They can take out terrorists in the freaking Middle East, increase GDP over inside of the EU, which then frees up money for them to give to Ukraine, likely as part of a back freaking channel deal. And then Ukraine can purchase $50 billion worth of U.S. equipment and weaponry. That's amazing. The price of oil dropping right now is a good thing because Russian oil is going to get priced out of the damn market. That directly impacts them. And everybody over in the United States wants to complain about it like it's a horrible, horrible thing. Nope, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. That doesn't even go. That's just the impact of doing this on Russia. That's just the impact on Russia. When we bring up the impact that it's going to have on the Middle East, we're going to get in there in a sec, and then we're going to go over what the hell has taken place this weekend. Skeptic, Ukraine could get $100 billion and they would still lose. They are already drafting 18-year-olds and throwing women in the front lines. I see their bodies on Telegram all the time. Good for you, Skeptic. That is a very good assertion that you made. Very proud of you for making that assertion. Now, if you could go ahead and validate that statement, love to hear it. I'd love to see some validation of that statement. Really love to see some validation of that statement. If you could validate that statement, Skeptic, people might actually listen to you. Just because your name's Skeptic doesn't mean that it means a damn thing. I gave hard numbers and facts for how that's going to impact. And when you're talking about a war of attrition and where Russia's at and breaking the back of their economy, remind me again why the Soviet Union collapsed, Skeptic. Skeptic, remind me again why the Soviet Union collapsed. Telegram, aka propaganda. Correct. Yeah, I also saw what was it over on Telegram? It was the guy with Down syndrome that allegedly Ukraine was putting on the front line. That was also over on Telegram. One of the most ridiculous things ever. So nuts. So now we're going to get in there. Now we're going to get in there. Now we're going to get in some weeds. Because now we're talking about Iran's projection and what Iran wants to do and what they're going for. Yeah, trolls are out in force today because I called it a massacre. And they know exactly what I'm talking about. See, somebody commented Afghanistan. There is no direct evidence yet that the U.S. has reopened the airbase in Bagram. None. As a matter of fact, satellite imagery and things like that that I showed last week show that there is no U.S. aircraft over there on the days alleged. Ranked Scrub coming in. He says Trump's messaging has been wrong because he has harped on both sides ending the war. He isn't telling Russia that Sumy is the last damn mistake. Well, why would he do that? Why would you forecast what you're going to do? Would you like that? If you were a soldier, if you were a service member, if you were doing anything, would you broadcast your war plans? The answer is no. The answer is no. You don't broadcast what you're trying to do. And correct, the draft age inside of Ukraine is not 18 years old. That has been one of the main things that I, as well as a lot of other people, have complained about. What we're doing is we're trying to analyze all of the data and put it together and tell you what it looks like is taking place. So if you would like to be a critical thinker, this would be the place for that. Try to think critically. He already told Russia what we're going to do. There's no need to repeat it. When you use words and they don't mean anything, then you look weak. And last time I checked, he ran his campaign on peace through strength. And I haven't seen this projection of the U.S. military in the last 20 years. I haven't. And when I say I haven't seen this projection of the U.S. military in the last 20 years, I absolutely mean it. Egypt had proposed, again, I told you guys that in order for like the Middle East and everything to take place and for Israel to go in and wipe out Hamas, that it was the day that Benjamin Netanyahu was scheduled to fly into the White House for the emergency meeting. You had the meeting between Macron, the Egyptian president, and the King of Jordan, all of them. And what they were saying was that they want another negotiation to take place for another hostage exchange. Egypt had proposed, allegedly, this is coming from Israeli News Pulse, that Hamas needs to release 11 hostages alive. In return, Israel would agree to a 40 to 70-day ceasefire and commit to negotiate to a full end of the war in exchange for the remaining hostages. Israel will also be required to release some 1,100 jailed Palestinians. For the 100 freaking terrorists for the 11 hostages that they're saying they should release. Allegedly, Israel's leadership is debating on this right now. It's not going to happen. It's not going to go anywhere. They can debate on it all they want. They said they're reaching out to the families of the hostages. I would also suggest that the Israeli government reach out to the families of the victims of those 1,100 prisoners they have in jail. 1,100. And ask yourself what the impact on that is going to be for Israel in general if you let those 1,100 terrorists out of prison. Probably isn't going to be good. I would bet that the risk to civilian life far outweighs 11. Just a thought, it probably far outweighs 11. Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Matt Goodman. Far outweighs it. This weekend, Sumy over in Ukraine wasn't the only place that got hit with ballistic missiles.
I just got a siren in the middle of the street. Just running and look for shelter. This is Israel for you. Boy, boy. Yeah. We can't get into the building. We can't get into the building, so I'm just. מדרגות, אבל אין לנו איך להיכנס. We can't get into the building. I'm trying to get into the building. Oh, great.
So at least they have the ability to like get an early warning system. Now, first, again, this took place over the weekend. First, it was 2 ballistic missiles that got fired out of Yemen into Israel, 2 ballistic missiles. Then Israel came out and said, no, pretty sure we ended up intercepting one of them and that the other one didn't fire. So they ended up intercepting these. Not a big deal. Cool. Great. Got it. Took care of it. But those ballistic missiles were coming out of Yemen. And what did we do in response? Because these are all of the people that want us to continue to negotiate with them. Check this out. This is, let me make sure I've got this right. I don't want to get the name of the ship wrong. I always forget it. I want to say it's the Lincoln. Now, this is one of 2 aircraft carriers that have been deployed over there in order to blast the shit out of them. This doesn't include everything that's staged down in Diego Garcia. This doesn't include anything that's staged across the Middle East. This doesn't include the fighter squadron that get moved into Jordan. This doesn't include the frickin' A-10 Warthogs that got deployed across the Middle East. This doesn't include the aerial defense assets that we deployed across the Middle East. We have so much firepower right now over the Middle East. It's absolutely insane. Absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. And that is exactly what it looks like over there, over in the Red Sea. As a matter of fact, I believe this is the U.S. Carl Vincent. CENTCOM ended up putting this video out as well. Just prepping the bombs to be dropped. The amount of freaking work that is going in to destroy the Houthis, to get ready to bomb the shit out of Iran, to take care of the threat in the Middle East is absolutely insane. And the U.S. is actually cranking out propaganda. Like, we're not going anywhere. You think the commander of that freaking ship, by the way, is who that last video I played from? Do you think the commander of that ship just went ahead and decided to put that shit out on his own? Or do you think maybe he got clearance in order to do so? Adora says, between the 2 of them, Russia is far more likely to force a mentally handicapped person into service. How often do we see them send their undesirables into the meat grinder just to soak up UA's rounds? All the time. All of the time. We see that all of the time. The Truman, thank you. Truman, thank you very much. Now, this is probably one of my favorite videos that ended up getting put out. It got put out by General David Alvin. He is the 23rd Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. He is the commanding general. And it has been 1 year since Iran, I want you to think about this. It has been 1 year since Iran fired the 300-plus ballistic missiles over into the Middle East. 1 year since that happened. 1 year since Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. This is probably my favorite video that came out. I hope you enjoy it.
The radar just lit up.
Stand by, won't be able to talk to you. We're 1 minute to impact.
Launch to survive and defend the base.
At that point, we were in an hour-long fight, just trying to kill whatever we could.
get the green light to take off. So this is another normal night mission, just like any other.
And we were out there for a couple hours with no real calm about anything having actually happened. So we thought, all right, maybe it's like off.
Boards gets the first lock, and boy, he does exactly what he was taught and shot within about 20 seconds to get in that lock.
All right, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be the first one in my formation, and I'm by far the least experienced. I'm going to give someone else a chance to tell me not to before I do it. So I was like, hey, we're targeted. No one said anything. I was like, all right, we get a little closer.
Yep, there goes the missile. All right, boys, here we go.
That's a drone. And then the radar gets another and another. It fills. It's all attack drones.
I would just say drone there, and then shoot. Missile would come off the rail. Drone destroyed. Next. 8 engagements, and then it was like, wow, that happened fast.
The ground is on fire right now. You could see every single one of the drones where they hit.
And that just took about 45 minutes to shoot all of the missiles that we could off of that 4th ship before we had to come home out of missiles and try and get some more to go back up.
300 weapons were fired at a target man. 6 of them hit. No one died.
This is way, way bigger than me just shooting missiles at drones. This is defense of our coalition partners.
We got to be part of a thing that was meaningful and had an impact.
That's freaking nuts, man. I love it. Absolutely love that video. I'm going to point something else on it. I got to answer some of these comments that we have going on from some of you guys. Alleyway June says, you're smart. I get the Iran-Russian link, but Trump's ties to Russia and his Ukraine stance still makes me question if he's really acting differently. Why? Why does it make you question it? What part about it? It's got to be disheartening to those Ukrainians. Wholeheartedly agree. Looking at it and not being able to have the time and research to go over all of this stuff absolutely can be disheartening for people that don't understand, that don't have the ability to get into it. Brian Nunley coming in gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Greatly appreciate you. Now, my favorite line that ended up coming out of this was this new guy right here. If you're ever in the United States military, right, and you're a freaking brand new guy, hold on, where'd he go? This guy. This is 100% how every FNG should respond in the military. He doesn't ask for permission. He just sees it and he's like, yep, nobody said shit, going hot.
My formation, and I'm by far the least experienced. I'm going to give someone else a chance to tell me not to before I do it. So I was like, hey, we're targeted. No one said anything. I was like, all right, we get a little closer.
Yep, there goes the missile. All right, boys, here we go.
So new guy opens up. I absolutely love that. And that is the great thing about like the United States military is like, they're just eager to get into some shit and make it happen. And by the way, while we talk about it, all right, we're going to go up over here and we're going to go back down into Yemen and we're going to take a look at what those ships have been up to and those fighter pilots have been up to over inside of the Red Sea, particularly over inside of Yemen, and the amount of shit that they started taking out over this last weekend because they started going after, again, remember that the Houthis decided it would be a good idea to fire more ballistic missiles at Israel over the weekend. That's what they thought. There's a brand new video coming out of Yemen. Here is what happened to one of their stockpiles. Kind of reminds me of those like little like flashy fireworks things that we have here in the United States. And I think they make fireworks. For those of you guys that don't know, fireworks is like made to commemorate when we celebrate the 4th of July, the independence of the United States of America, and all of the crap that you see exploding in the sky represents like warfare. It's kind of messed up when you think about it. Yeah, seizure warning for what's going on for those of you guys that haven't been there. Michael B becoming a brand new true supporter. Welcome to the freaking club. But strobes, that's what we called them, like the little strobes that you can buy, the little flashy things that like give your freaking head or like, yeah, like kind of make you sick. That's pretty freaking rad. So yeah, we're still going in there and we're targeting. We're not being as vocal about every single thing that we've been doing, but we have been pretty vocal about it. Israel announced over this weekend as well, right, that they ended up dismantling a Hamas command and control center. And where was it at? It was the Al-Ahli Hospital. Can't even pronounce it correctly. They told Hamas not to be doing that shit, and they did it anyways. So Israel ended up announcing that they were going to take out the terrorist command center. This is what Israel claimed to be the terrorist command center, and they targeted it in a direct strike. They said that they did a lot of different stuff over inside of Gaza to make sure that they mitigated civilian casualties and everything else. The doctors came out and they were like, "Oh, Lord, please don't do this. Lord, please, leave the hospital alone." Well, in case you guys are curious and you want to see it, and maybe this is what I'll do. I'll drop a link to this so you guys can check it out for yourselves if you'd like. Give me a sec here. Let me drop a link for you guys. So if you would like, you can follow along and you can check my sources as I go through it. This is the article that I'm going to be going over that I wrote. It's got one tiny mistake in it. That's fine. I don't really care. This is the article that I ended up writing. So if you guys are looking for this information, there you go. You have it. It's pinned up to the top of the chat. Takes you directly over to my X account. If you're not following me over there, get over there and freaking follow it. I'm going to introduce you guys this doctor. He's somebody that I've seen in the news quite a bit, and we're going to get this up on the screen. Hamas supporting doctor who has infiltrated the mainstream media. It's not a joke. I found him in CNN, the Associated Press, The Guardian, Reuters, and a bunch of other ones, including like Fox, like smaller Fox News channels and everything else. This doctor right here has been quoted in all of these ones, and they'll take his X post and everything else. The Long War Journal put this article out about him a couple weeks ago. And in this journal, it directly says that he was responsible. He is the father, not directly responsible. He is the father of a Hamas fighter. Goes over it and talks about all of his other crap. They even label out some of the places that they found him. New York Times, Associated Press, Reuters, NPR, CBS News, and CNN. There is a buttload of places that this doctor has actually been. And when we go over it and we look, I found, you go over to his profile. So let's do this. Let me show you his profile first. Because when you go over to his profile and you look at him all the way back, and you go to his earliest post that's up, this is the earliest post that he has. So you go to his main profile and you go all the way down. The earliest post that shows was October 25th when I did this article on Sunday. The earliest post was October 25th. Nothing else exists before that on his main profile. But unfortunately for him, whether or not you guys know this, when you post things up over on X, it ends up also going over the media portion if you include pictures and things like that. When you delete it, most of the time, it will take it off your media section. Not all of the time. I don't quite understand how that works, but that's what it does. So I went through a bunch of his media. Here's one of the things that I found. This post ended up going up on May 23rd of 2020 that the good doctor put up. Happy New Year's to you and your family. May Allah accept your jihad and your guarding of the borders. May God protect our people and our country. Now, it's kind of odd that this man is a hospital director. It's kind of odd that this man is a hospital director. And on the left side, you can see the guy in a hospital gown or hospital equipment, whatever. And on the right side, you clearly see him in a uniform and helmet and all of that other crap. He's even wearing like goggles, dust and wind goggles in this one. Again, this is a hospital director that's been quoted in all of these different news articles going down and shitting on the Israelis, trying to say how bad they've done. Now, you could argue that maybe this guy's a medic. And what was taking place at the time was a bunch of small freaking contacts over on the freaking border of Gaza between Gaza and Israel. May Allah accept your jihad. This is a hospital director that has been quoted in all of those MSM outlets. May God accept your jihad and your guarding of the border. May God protect our people and our country. This is a hospital director over inside of Gaza. People seem to think that because they wear the title of doctor, that they're immune from radical Islam. In fact, they're not. Gets even better. And by the way, these are just a couple of the ones I ended up putting up there. This one came out June 9th of 2017. These are the good ones. Falsehood is like swollen foam. It rises a little, then disappears, leaving only pure water. As for the foam, it vanishes. But what benefits and remains on earth? This is a quote from Yusuf Qaradawi. I forget his name, how to properly pronounce his name. Clear member of the Muslim Brotherhood. He's a horrible human being. As a matter of fact, when we talk about him, aside from being a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, in 2009, the guy that he quoted in that post gave a sermon which was broadcasted on Al Jazeera where he prayed for the annihilation of Jews, referring to them as treacherous aggressors. In 2017, Arab nations such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Bahrain, and the UAE placed him on their terrorist watch lists. And this good doctor is quoting this man and trying to allege that he's not a terrorist. He doesn't support Hamas and everything else. A definite hold my Quran moment. And we can go over his freaking profile if you want. I ended up tagging him at the bottom of this article. If you haven't gone over there and checked him out, maybe you should. Go look at this guy. He's a raging pile of donkey poo for supporting all of these different terrorists and their agenda. And these are the guys that they're quoting. This video right here, which I meant to embed in the article, but I screwed it up, is this white dude trying to tell you that there's a difference between resistance. There's a difference between resistance and terrorism, and that the Palestinians are resisting, is what he's alleging. And again, this good doctor on October 9th ended up sharing it. For some reason, it's deleted. It's not on his main profile. You won't find it. Incog Faraday gifted out 5 memberships. 502 Outlaw says, Matt, celebrating our 40th reunion, could you give a shout out to my old battle rattle boy, the Frenchman in Hugh G reaction? Hell yeah. Old battle rattle boy. The Frenchman in Hugh G reaction. Hell yeah, man. Well, happy freaking 40th, man. That's amazing. That's an amazing freaking time, man. Holy crap, dude. Congrats to you guys for doing that. That's impressive. Absolutely impressive. Yeah, just made it where they can sell Chinese fireworks year around here in Kansas. Not happy, didn't get to vote on that. Right. So that's the good doctor for you, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's taking place inside Gaza. So the reason I brought this up is because when Israel says they targeted hospitals, that's exactly what they mean. Now, I want to show you guys something else that I ended up putting up over earlier this morning. You guys definitely need to get your butts over there and follow me if you haven't yet. Besides, you know, everybody coming out, blah, 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 blah. Man, we could talk about, you guys asked me to look into, I want to say it was like the Joe Rogan podcast that had on the 2 guys that were debating, like the comic and the guy that actually knew what the hell he was talking about. And I looked into that and it was really good. One more thing out of Gaza. The director of nursing at the Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis begged, and said that the hospital was for patients only. It wasn't for terrorist activities. Hospital is for patients and not terrorist activities. And what did she get in response? What did they get in response from the Al-Quds Brigade? Literally a direct threat. For making that statement and coming out, literally got a direct threat for making those statements. If you think for some reason that the hospital staff inside of Gaza is completely and totally innocent, boy, oh boy, have you drinking the frickin' Palestinian Kool-Aid. Somebody commented earlier, 20,000 Palestinian children have died. Where the F are you getting at? What makes you think that those Palestinian children, on top of that, even if they weren't, let me pull this up for you. I can find it real quick. It's not that hard. I want to show you something of the Hamas propaganda hostage exchange crap that just took place. Excuse me. The bodies. And what I'm going to show you is the children that are there. And young out, like literally dressed in like little young jihadi outfits that are standing there in these videos. Let me find it. I reported on it the other day. Let's see if this is a tiny portion of the video that they end up putting out. Number one, the amount of kids that are gathered around there as Hamas is presently standing in their uniforms. This is just them offloading a casket, probably of the Bibas mom who actually wasn't in the casket. Let's not forget that they ended up doing that. But in the Hamas propaganda video, you literally see children dressed in uniform, holding AKs and everything else. You see them. It's the saddest damn thing that people don't recognize how effed up this is. Oh, screw that freaking terrorist channel. I'm not going to use that one. We can look right here, and we can look at the eyeballs of this human being, and this human being, and this human being, and this human being. And you can allege that they're probably a little bit younger. But no, I want to show you the babies that they had in there. I want to show you the flipping babies that they had in some of these damn videos. That's what I want to show you. Because I watched a lot of their propaganda videos, and I'm telling you right now, the 1,000% children in uniform. The issue is, and I actually talked about this the other day. Here's a good one for you. I'll just put that up there. Let's throw this up here. Why is it that social media is so flooded with their propaganda? Why do you see so much of it? Numbers don't lie. 2 billion estimated Muslims on the face of the planet. 2 billion. Jews, only 15 million. 2 billion versus 15 million. Let me go over here because I did the math this weekend, not that long ago. You throw this math out here for you. 2 billion versus 15 million. There is 12,636% more Muslims on this planet than there is Jews. I'll say that again. 12,636% more. Now, not all of them support Hamas, but a good chunk of them do. Even a tiny percentage of that far outweighs the entire Jewish community. And so when you go over to social media and you see all of this terrorist propaganda and everything else that's being pushed, that is why you are flooded with all of the terrorist propaganda, in that stuff like this isn't as easy to find out there. 2 billion. 12,000, over 12,000% more than there is Jews. And so that's why you see it that way. But yes, let's pretend like child soldiers inside Gaza don't exist. Let's pretend like this isn't a thing. Let's pretend like the little terror training camps don't exist, knowing damn good and well that they do. Is it proportionality when after October 7th, the Israelis leveled Gaza and killed thousands of innocent women and children? Why don't you tell your viewers about the USS Liberty? Skeptic, I already commented on the USS Liberty. I talked to you about the fog of war. I talked to you about how after they discovered what it was, they immediately halted it. Then I also brought up Pat Tillman, and I said, just because the 75th Ranger Regiment killed Pat Tillman, does that mean that the 75th Ranger Regiment hates the NFL? How many instances in war is there of actual, like, blue on blue or green on blue instances that occur due to the fog of war? A lot of them. Why don't you talk about, Skeptic, everything that was taking place in the leading up to the USS Liberty and what the USS Liberty was tasked at actually doing over there and why they got there? I already commented on your bullshit. And yeah, you want me to talk about why? Let's talk about why Gaza appears to be leveled. Let's talk about that for a quick second. You have inside of Gaza an estimated 40,000 enemy combatants following October 7th. 40,000 enemy combatants. These are trigger pullers for Hamas. 40,000. Any military, it's even worse in an insurgency or in a terrorist network, requires at least 10 times that number in order to freaking operate. So 10 times the support, and every single portion of that support network is considered a legitimate military target, whether you like it or not. That means that there's over 400,000 legitimate military targets, human beings inside of Gaza. Remind me again what the population estimated was inside of Gaza? Around 2 million. So over 25% of the population, the Palestinians inside Gaza, are legitimate military targets. Over 25% of the population. 25%. Now, in the Iraq War between 2003 and 2013, the U.S. military killed an estimated 39,000 and some change enemy combatants. And that is within the entire country of Iraq. For 10 years, estimated over 39,000 enemy combatants. Do you know what the collateral damage was as a result of that? Over 139,000. And that is not U.S. collateral damage. That is U.S., Al-Qaeda in Iraq, Al-Nusra Front, all of those pieces of shit. They're VBIEDs that they set off in the middle of the freaking marketplaces that destroyed human beings, leveled them, shook buildings off their freaking foundation. 139,000. So even if I was to take every single bullshit number that comes out of the Gaza Strip as a fact, Israel has killed 20,000 estimated enemy combatants. Estimated 20,000. So that takes that number and it chops it down now, doesn't it? Because we all know the Palestinian Authority does not put out the difference between Hamas fighters and Palestinian civilians. Now, does it? Because 100% of Hamas is Palestinian. How about them numbers? 100% of Hamas is Palestinian. So let's just go ahead and round that figure up to 50,000. And we'll knock off the 20,000 that Israel claims. That's still only a 1.5, not accounting for natural deaths, not accounting for Hamas collateral damage, just to be fair. That would still be an estimated 1.5 CIV-CAS ratio. That's a good even round number. And when we look at Iraq, the last major war fought in an urban environment prior to Ukraine, where we have studies on it against terrorists, what would that CIV-CAS ratio have been? 1 to 3? 1 to 3.5? Somewhere in there, some change? Israel is far outpacing the United States, even if we were to take those bullshit numbers. But when we factor in 1,000 natural deaths a month that were taking place on average in 2023 prior to October 7th, how many months are we in? 18. So let's take that 30,000 and knock off the 18,000 natural deaths that would have occurred inside Gaza. Where are we at now? Do the math for me, skeptic. Do the math. 30,000 minus 18. What's that leave me with? 12,000? And then just to be fair, you could easily chop 2,000 off for collateral damage from Hamas. Even during the ceasefire, Hamas tried firing rockets at Israel and killed a young child inside of Rafah. I don't hear skeptic in here complaining about that. It's likely a 0.5 CIV-CAS ratio, if not less. And it is sad that people like skeptic try to come in here and state otherwise. And for the amount of destruction that's taking place across Gaza, you're correct, because 25% of the population, now that you brought it up, 25% of the population directly, not indirectly, directly supports Hamas. Does that answer your question, skeptic? I hope it does. Come on, skeptic, where are you at, man? Give me some more money and tell me why I'm wrong. It is sad, man. It is sad that you guys can't actually see this crap. And this kid right here, when he gets killed, If he hasn't been already, guess what? Civilian casualty, and then Hamas and the Palestinians will go whine and bitch and complain about it. I missed some super chats. All right, let me go back and take a look at them. I'm sorry. You know me when I get on a rave. Larry gifted out a Speak the Truth membership, and Larry says, Matt, thank you for all of your hard work. I can't read it. Let me blow the screen up. He says, thank you for all your hard work, man. The education I received from your channel is unbelievable. I have been doing research. It's just always right. Thank you, brother. Hi, Marsh. Do you think there is a chance that the U.S. will sign an agreement with Iran and not bomb their nuclear facilities? Absolutely not. There is no reason on the planet, and I want you to think about this, even for medical purposes, when we start talking about enriching uranium, you're talking about 20 to 25% max. For medical purposes, like for like the most innocent cause for the need to have enriched uranium, 20 to 25%, not 60, and you definitely don't need a couple 100 pounds of it. There is no other reason for Iran to have 60% enriched uranium other than they are trying to build nuclear weapons. Zero reason other than that. Nuclear weapons. And so when Iran lies about it and they say that we're not going to get rid of this shit, what option does that leave the United States with? What option? Iran would be smart to do it. I would be surprised if Putin's not pushing Iran to try to negotiate and give up that uranium, to dismantle those plants, because Israel came out and they leaked the two ways that this is going to go down. And there's not a snowball's chance in hell Iran's going to agree to it. That either the U.S. and Israel bomb the shit out of it and take them out that way, or the U.S. is allowed to go in and, to quote Israel, blow up, end quote, the nuclear facilities where they're doing all of this crap, the stockpiles and the uranium and everything else. Do you think Iran's going to agree to that? My answer is no. The same reason I know Hamas is not going to agree to release all of the hostages and back out of the Gaza Strip. It's just common sense. More super chats came in. Evil Rick says, genuine question. Why isn't Russia being pressured to accept peace? So many excuses, but so little responsibility. It's honestly disheartening to see. Evil Rick, that's exactly what I'm throwing out there. Putin's economy is extremely frail right now. Extremely, extremely frail. When you say being pressured in, sitting there and talking and going back and forth, what Biden called Putin a bully? How far did that advance the freaking agenda inside of Ukraine? It didn't. So calling Putin a bully doesn't do anything. Saying that they need to accept it, saying that they need to do this crap, literally does nothing to advance the freaking agenda over there. Nothing. Nada. Zip. Zilch. None. So it doesn't matter if we call him a bully. It doesn't matter if we throw words like that out there. Actions speak louder than words. What you're seeing take place in the Red Sea and Putin coming out and saying, please don't bomb the Houthis, please don't reopen the Red Sea, is because 50% of the oil prior to it being shut off was all Russian. And they need to offload that oil in order to fund their war effort. That is massive pressure, in addition to every single sanction that got laid on them underneath Biden. That's pressure. Bombing Iran, taking out all of their Shahed drone bullshit along with the nuclear facilities, that's pressure. That is literally the pressure you're asking for. Going after China, one of the main markets, with tariffs. As much as you don't like it, I don't like it, I'm going to have to pay for that shit, directly puts pressure on Russia. That is where they've been going to get a ton of their stuff. And China turned around and did the same thing to the United States. That economy is going to suffer. Prices of goods are going to go up there as well. That is also putting additional pressure on Russia. If you guys could actually open your eyeballs and think one or two layers deep, you would see the amount of pressure that's actually getting put on them. That's my belief. Evil Rick says, should have specified from everyone, not just Trump. Yeah, Why isn't everybody doing it? Why isn't the EU doing it? Because they're all scared. Why is Macron sitting there going along with the frickin' Palestinians? Because remember, Macron is one of the main people that's been pushing to get Russia to like kind of like capitulate. And still nothing. They're scared. Macron can't even stand up to the Houthis in Yemen or Iran and state that the Palestinians are a bunch of freaking jihadists. So why the hell would you expect him to have the ball sack to stand up to Russia? You shouldn't. Fox McCloud, the largest American blue-on-blue incident by a casualty count occurred on December 5th, 2001. I didn't know that. Now I'm going to have to look that one up. But yeah, the U.S. doesn't hate the U.S. because we had a freaking like blue-on-blue incident, which basically means U.S. forces targeted other U.S. forces, green forces being like our partners, allies, things like that. Green on blue would be what took place at the USS Liberty. It happens so often we actually have names for them. Nicknames, green on blue, blue on blue. Fratricide, it's a thing. 12 Bravo, Granddaddy, gifted out 1 Speak the Truth membership. Thank you, brother. Steve V says, everybody keeps talking about Iran's uranium. Why is nobody mentioning and asking how much plutonium is stockpiled? That's a good question. I'm going to have to look into that. Hill Marsh, I hope you're right about no deal with the IRGC. Love and thanks from Israel. I feel like I am correct on that because not a snowball's chance in hell. What people are trying to say, and I heard this rumor last week, and there's nothing to substantiate it whatsoever, was that Israel, as part of this deal, would have to give up their nuclear weapons program in order for Iran to give up their nuclear weapons program. Not a snowball's chance in hell. Poor little Israel is going to give up their nuclear weapons program. Anybody who suggested that, I have seen no evidence of it whatsoever. John Wilson, how do you know those weren't Hamas rockets that killed those women and children, or are you still ignoring the facts? Thank you. And he's calling out skeptic. Collateral damage occurs on both sides. Dude, I even did a massive debunking of the Palestinian bullshit from the doctors that were talking about bullets and Israeli snipers blowing these freaking kids' heads off and them claiming that there's bullets that were stuck inside their head. And I explained how the 5.56 down at sea level in that environment broke down the actual ballistic data of it at 500 meters, still has more kinetic energy, even equivalent, call it equivalent of a 9mm. Not to mention the projectile smaller, has like a more sleek surface area designed to it. It's designed to penetrate, has a steel core penetrator going right down through the damn middle of it. One of the most common rounds used by the IDF. And if they would have freaking hit a child in the head at 500 meters with it, think about this, it would have the kinetic energy equivalent to that of a 9mm. You mean to tell me a 9mm at point blank range fired into a child's head would not blast completely through the head? Again, propaganda, and people don't do the math. They don't do the thinking. It's really easy to break down the BS when you start going up over there. So when you start talking about collateral damage that occurs, that's all one and the same. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a bunch of stuff I got to do. I love you guys. I see High Marsh came in gifting out 10 Speak the Truth memberships as well. You guys are just giving me all sorts of love today. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be back later on this evening. I'm going to do my best to crank out a video. I have a meeting that I have to go to today, and I have another one that I have to do before that meeting. So I've got to like run and rush in order to get some things done. But I appreciate every single one of you guys that came down over here today. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate every single true supporter that's out here. I'll make sure I get a new link for the Discord. If you got a brand new Speak the Truth membership, wait for those freaking posts to like come up. You're going to see a post. All right. You got to be a true supporter in order to see it for the Discord link. Make sure you get your butt over there. You guys, spread the word of this channel. It is obviously being suppressed. Spread the word of this channel. Make sure your notification bell's turned on. Make sure you're subscribed to the Speak the Truth channel because shit's going to pop off here and it's not going to take that long. And when it does, you need to be here so that you can see everything get covered. And by the way, I'm happy to announce I got a brand new studio that's going to be coming at you guys by May 1st. You guys are going to love it. I'm calling it the bunker. I love it. It's going to have a nice concrete wall behind it. Currently looking at some different shelves and everything to put up. Have the different flags. It's going to be beautiful. You guys are going to love it. Not that I don't love this studio. I mean, this is a nice setup, but we're going to get us a brand new studio. So look forward to that as well. Until next time, ladies.